I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching the Apothecary Diaries Season 1, Episode 10. Last episode we left off with the knowledge from Goshen that the lady that we've been looking for with burns on her arms has been found, and that person is Fang Ming, the head lady in waiting to concubine Ao Duo.
Yes. Jinchi does say that this took like a little bit of time, more than he was hoping it would. I think that it makes a lot of sense coming out of last episode narratively that the choice of who this was someone under a concubine. I know we get told like, oh, this is higher than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
But it is still someone who is, as Mao Mao was bringing up last episode, more disposable in terms of like, this is not one of the concubines, it is one of their servants. It is a lady in waiting. Yes, it might be a head lady in waiting to one of the top 4 concubines, but she's still a servant.
I think that there lies possibilities for implications through it being Fang Ming, though, whether through intent or acting behalf, and all.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Yeah, that's where we're at.
I did have something I wanted to show you, actually.
Okay.
So after last episode, we get told, oh, okay, how did this servant girl get on top of the walls? And then we are shown Mao Mao kind of walking around the outskirts of the walls, and we see what looks like a stone that has been pulled out. Mao Mao's telling us that's for the people that constructed it, that they put those stones into place. And I was really curious if we get shown another view of that when we are learning about Lady Fuyu and the sleepwalking.
Oh, about how she climbed up on top of the wall?
Right, because Mao Mao was curious how Lady Fuyu had gotten up there.
Okay.
So I believe it would be like, it's whenever we first see Lady Fuyu sleepwalking, on top, which might be like the end of episode 3.
I think it was episode 3, because that was that was her episode, no?
So or maybe it's the end of episode 2. It might be the beginning of episode 3 or the end of episode 2.
Okay.
Oh, we get re-shown the servant. So it would be when she's dancing on the walls. So it's either the very beginning or at the very end of episode 2. I'm going to go with end of episode 2.
All right. Let's pull it up. And what am I looking for?
We're looking for the view of the servant girl as she's looking up at the lady on the wall.
Okay.
And if you look at it, you're going to want to go back so you can get a better view.
Right, it's like a ladder.
Look at the steps.
Yeah.
Look
But
at the
it's
wall.
much more like if
Do you
were
see the
rock-
stones
yeah.
that are
Interesting.
pulled out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
That's
if
cool, though.
someone
I
could
thought
have
that was
climbed up
interesting.
there.
That's great.
especially
Interesting.
if-
It's much more vertical than I imagined it before.
Right.
But
I
yeah, you're
imagined
right.
it
It's like a
almost
ladder.
Like steps.
Yeah.
But it's much more like if you were rock climbing.
Interesting. Huh.
Yep,
That's
so
cool, though.
I thought that was interesting.
That's great continuity.
Right? I mean, come on, it's Apothecary Diaries. Should we really be that surprised that we were shown something that we would have not viewed as significant in that moment, and then it would have come back as being something later on?
No. Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I have this song on a personal car playlist. Now that I think about it, I'm kind of nervous going into this episode because of what is happening with Jinshi and Mao Mao's dynamic and relationship after their last big talk.
This is definitely going on my Valorant warm-up playlist. I have to like reevaluate it from a different perspective there. Oh. I love the reflection of the stars.
Is that Ao Duo?
Looks like Jinshi. After being taught or told of the perspective of it, honey. Wow.
That was definitely Ao Duo.
You're right.
リファ様もこのまま子を宿さなければ同じようになるのだ。玉葉様だっていつまでも寵愛を受けられるとは断言できない。
So unstable.
美しい花もいつかはしおれる。高級の花は実を結ばねば意味がない。
Mm-hmm.
そろそろ戻らなきゃ。
Newer, younger concubines, but also any servant girl could become a concubine as well.
当然よ。上級妃 特妃のリージュ様がいらっしゃるんだから。
まさに高級の縮図がそこに。
I like that Lady Lishu's coming for a tea
歓
party.
迎しますわ、リーシュ妃。ありがとうございます。
同性であれば身構えてしまうのが女という生き物なのだろうか。
I like that line.
帝が来る時より気を使っている。
Wow.
和やかな会話の中で情報を引き出す玉葉様は
She's
穏や
cautious.
かそうに見えて。
How skilled. Do you see that delay in the walking?
We were told that's how you be a good concubine, is to be cautious. To survive.
人や時勢の流れをつかむことが重要なんだろう。
The taster tables.
ひどい罰は受けていないようでよかった。別に噛みついたりしないのにな。
Unless she does anything bad again.
寒いからこういうのはどうかなと思って。
Honey.
柑橘の皮を蜂蜜で煮たものなの。
Oh.
体が温まるわよ。
It sounds good.
お口に合うといいけど。
Wait, what does she not like?
また好き嫌い。出されたものも食べる。
The taster seems a little less like she's making fun of it too now.
玉葉様。
Is she gonna pretend?
あらら、アイラ、ごめんなさい。
Wow.
もう少し漬け込んだ方がいいみたい。生姜湯は飲めるかしら。
I think Gyokyu knew too, you know, what Mao Mao was trying to do.
いじめは間違いではなかったらしい。
You only scared it out of one of them, not all of
後
them.
の片付けは任せて。マオマオは休んでね。
片付けくらいやるんだけど。
Gyokyu might ask her about it.
急にリーシュ様を呼んでお茶会なんて変だと思ったら、こいつの差し金か。楽しく過ごされていましたよ。
話は終わってないんだ。
話していただけませんか。
Did he want another read about how they were treating Lishu?
園遊会の毒殺騒ぎ。犯人は自殺したザクロ級の下女だという話は知っているか？一階の下女が特妃であるリーシュ妃の皿に毒を盛る理由は？
わかりません。
では明日からザクロ級に手伝いに行ってもらえないか？
Jinshi, no! You're like sending her in there as your little tool.
屋敷というもの
Your
は
pawn, as you said earlier.
そしてアードー妃が住むザクロ級は無駄がなく
So fascinating being here.
今日から3日間よろしくお願いね。
Is that the one?
3 days.
人士様には何をしろとも言われていない。
そう。よろしく頼むよ。
Isn't there just like a presence?
華やかさや豊満さはないが、中性的な凛々しさがあって美しい。これで35ですか。
Very similar to Jinshi in that way of the androgynous beauty.
妃の着る大袖とスカートより古服の方が似合うだろうな。
Wow.
憧れの眼差し。誰かに似て
Yeah, she looks too much like him.
I'm just so interested with how Feng Ming's gonna go, you know? We're gonna have to see the burns, right?
随分親しみやすい。
まずは書物の虫干しをお願いできるかしら。
Yep, of course Mama would have noticed.
勘案に任せていいからね。
This is how we gather evidence without being too presumptuous.
無駄のない屋敷に見えて格段に荷物が多い。
Wow.
口先だけの奴らに見せてやりたい。
もう丁寧で助かるわ。応接室の方も手伝ってもらえる？
She seems nice.
人当たりが良くて他人をよく見て褒める。次女頭として人を扱う術を心得ているようだ。
Interesting.
But she has a dark side. Da da da.
甘い匂い。
よければ使ってちょうだい。今夜は冷えるからゆっくり休んでね。
The flame, the smell, the bandage. We're on a reconnaissance mission. So that we get evidence.
It's almost like blocking out the curiosity.
結婚しようとは思わなかったのか。それともアードー妃に生涯尽くすことを選んだのか。忠誠心の強さは毒殺を行う理由
Or love. We got those other two servant girls being attracted to
触れた果実にしか反応しない帝はリーシュ様のもとへは通っていない。14という年齢を考えれば望ましいことだが、
I'm kind
貴
of
族
glad
と
to
し
hear
ての
that.
役割を果たしていないとも言える。
誰か手伝ってくれない？
蜂蜜？
フォンミン様のご実家が養蜂場をなさっているの。
Interesting.
ホーリで高級品の蜂蜜がこんなにあるわけですね。
Did someone recommend the honey for the tea party with Lishu?
リーシュ様？連れは毒味役一人だけか。どうしてザクロ級に？そういえばお茶会で。以上がザクロ級での出来事です。
I'm so confused.
そうか。
More honey.
それ以上でも以下でもありませんが、何を求めているのか知らないが、
He
こ
wants
ちらは普通の
conjecture.
薬屋だ。スパイの真似事などできるわけない。というか、最近態度が軽くないか？正直、あの穏やかな次女頭が何かをやっているようには見えなかったが。
まあ、旧大点だな。
これにお菓子に蜂蜜を食べておいて、この手を調べていただろうに。
いい子にはご褒美をあげないとね。
遠慮します。
遠慮するのは
No. Stop.
そうです。他の方に差し上げてください。こいつ顔がいいから何をしても許されると思っている。そういえばそういう。
Goshen, help!
ガオシュン様。
Oh.
くそ、話が通じない。お偉方でなければ股間を蹴って、ないものは蹴っても仕方ない。
Do it and that'll mess with him harder.
尊厳のため逃げ出すか。せめて鳥かぶとの蜜なら割り切れたのに。
甘いものは嫌いじゃないかしら。
I love the ripples.
リーシュ様、蜜。
うちの次女に何をしているの？
Oh shit!
It's called sexual harassment, and we won't stand for that.
シャオモ、ついいたずらが過ぎただけなので、ジンシ様を許してくださいませんか。
では次はガオシュン様が眠れば問題ないかと。
いらっしゃいま。あら？ジンシ様はいないの？
はい、突然申し訳ありません。
あなた、英雄会の。
Covering the freckles. Interesting, right?
蜂蜜はお嫌いですか？
なんでわかるの？
顔に出ていますから。
She's a little embarrassed.
蜂蜜でお腹を壊したことが。食中毒。
Did they try to poison her before? Maybe they.
一時は命も危うかったと聞いたわ。以来、乳母たちにも食べるなと言われていて。あんな次女の話なんて聞くことありません。特費であるリーシュ様
Do
に
you think
対
the
する
taster's gonna butt in?
早く追い返すべきです。
そして外部のものを悪役に仕立て、自分たちだけが味方と思い込ませるのか。
The taster's not being shown.
Yeah.
私は命を受けてここに来ました。言いたいことがあれば、ジンシ様に直接どう
Woo!
ぞ。
Tongues being hearts is wild.
Caution's face.
Yeah.
ザクロ級の次女頭、フォンミン様と面識はありますか？
Her face.
Do you think that there's relation?
Did we try to get rid of her when she was a baby too? Like, what is happening?
宮廷の書庫を探しましょう。
ありがとうございます。
Lishu's face is so
今度は
telling.
一体何が分かったのか。賢い娘だ。弱い17とは思えない。知識の深さと冷静さ、理性的に物事を考え処理する能力。一部変わったところはあるが、目を見張るものがある。
17年前、今の帝がまだ東宮だった。
17 years ago.
アードーヒとの間に男児を一人設けている。
Mm-hmm.
すなわち限定の弟君と同じ時期。東宮時代の子はその一人だけ。 妃もアードー妃だけだった。今の味方とアードー妃は地兄弟とあるので、アードー妃に愛着があるのはわかるが、16年前乳幼児死亡取り上げたの。なんとなくそんな気がしていた。高級に数多く生えている薬草は私が昔からよく使っていたものばかりだ。誰かが移植したものだろう。老婆のような足を引きずる男。花町のクス市にしておくにはもったいないほどの医術を持つ。片足の膝の骨を抜かれた元宦官。
A former eunuch.
何やってんだよ親父。
No!
Oh,
No!
I was like,
The
it makes so much
timing!
sense to like Goshen's disposition and the tone that he was using, and like how old Mao Mao was, and the deduction.
There was a line about, I think, half siblings, and
Yeah.
we need to go back to that. Oh my god.
Okay, that was the Apothecary Diaries Season 1, Episode 10. Best moment of that entire episode was when Mao Mao looked to Goshen for help, and he was just staring out the window.
He was just looking. You know, it's really funny how that has, we have Goshen kind of being like, Mao Mao, you know, stop, you know, interesting Jinshi so much. Like, can you please? And now it's like Goshen has just given up. He's like, Jinshi's just gonna be doing this. Goshen even stayed and like apologized to Mao Mao. And I'm pretty sure that like addition in the front of the name, the Zhao Mao, calling her that, I'm pretty sure, I don't know actually, but I'm using context from the show. Whenever someone puts the Zhao in front, it has like that endearing quality to it. And I'm
like
pretty
a formal?
sure, no, not a formal, like a sweet. It's almost like calling someone like, it's like talking to someone maybe that is cute and in a sweet, endearing way. And I'm pretty sure Goshen had tried calling Mao Mao that before. And I want to go back to that scene to like hear what her response was. But I've never known outside of the show what that means. I'm uneducated.
Teach
but
us.
I'm trying to put the context clues together.
Yeah.
But it's other characters that have been given that, what would you call it, like an honorific or something, like been given that title before their name, has been the other servant girl that Mao Mao's friends with, Gyokyu's baby. They put that in front of her name, so it gives me like this, like maybe it's someone younger, sweet, you are endeared to this person, you like them. I don't know for sure.
Man, like Mao Mao's dad at the end of what, episode 8?
Way to just go right into the meat of this episode. Like,
how can you not? You know, like the idea of, well, it could have been episode 7. But Mao Mao's dad, like the fucking like irony, the aspect of like how fate works out to be is so fucked up. But it's like, for my sake of watching the show, I love it. That's just it makes a lot of sense, you know. I don't think that at the moment I'm like, Mao Mao isn't connected to the palace other than that, you know.
Right. This could be the only reason.
So can I take you through my like train of thought
on a journey? Yeah.
So first I was like, okay, we obviously get the idea that the son died. And then now that coincides 17 years ago with the son's death and Mao Mao's dad being exiled or removed expelled. And then my first train of thought's like, there's no way the son was actually a daughter and it was Mao Mao, or there was some turn on that. And I'm like, nah, fuck no. At the moment, I'm not leaning towards that and think that the Aoduo Jinshi connection is much more plausible because of their fucking like how similar they look. When Aoduo, when we got the vision of Aoduo on the horse dressed in more masculine attire, I was like, holy shit. But my issue there is that Jinshi doesn't look like he's 17. I know it's anime, so I can't really tell, but I like, my mind immediately jumps to, is that baby not dead, or was there some fuckiness happening where Jinshi was Aoduo's kid?
If I can remember correctly, obviously we're going to go back. Once we give everything from just pulling out of our minds from coming out of the episode, we are going to go back and reread that entire sequence at the end of all that information that was coming towards us.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk about what I pulled from it, and that could totally actually be wrong. So I'm interested to see if, like, the quickness of all that information, if my comprehension of it was spot on or not.
Okay.
There, at the time that Aoduo gave birth to that baby, I believe it was said that the Emperor's little brother was born. If Jinshi is the Emperor's little brother, he would also be 17 if this was 17 years ago.
Correct.
And then we also get the idea, we got half-siblings as a concept. And I don't know if that meant the Emperor and Aoduo were half-siblings, and that's how they ended up, they were the first together. Like, she was even with him when he was still a prince. And I don't know if it was them that were the half-siblings or the Emperor and his little brother that was being talked about in that scene. But that could lead to Aoduo being the older sister to Jinshi.
Let's just reread it now then. 17 years ago, when the current Emperor was still a prince.
Yes.
He had a son with Aoduo,
Mm-hmm.
right? The baby's already gone, but he was born around the same time as damn it.
Did it go too fast?
Yeah. The baby's already gone, but he was born around the same time as the prior Emperor and Empress's Dowager son.
And Empress Dowager had a similar purpley color hair.
Correct. In other words, the current Emperor's little brother. That was the only child the Emperor had as a prince, and Lady Aoduo was his only concubine.
Yes.
See,
are we going to keep going?
Yeah. I'm trying to process things and theorize. It says the current Emperor and concubine Aoduo are foster siblings.
Oh, okay. If it was foster siblings, not half siblings.
Yeah. So that explains his attachment to her. But it's surprising to learn a man that lustful only had one concubine back then. 16 years ago, the baby died. The baby was delivered by... Okay. So, like, initially going through with the garden party, like, the idea of Jinshi being the younger brother, like, was prominent. But with how heavily this episode dealt with Aoduo, the connection with Mao Mao and 17 years ago, I'm like, it makes me feel like Jinshi's connected to that. Like, just storytelling wise.
Connected to
the birth of the baby who died.
But if he was born at the same time, how could he be connected?
No, like, to Aoduo.
Like, he could have been the baby and we pretended the baby died?
Yeah, that's where my mind initially goes because of how many similarities they were pointing us this episode to Jinshi and Aoduo.
Okay, so fun train of thought here.
Okay, just real quick. Mao Mao had said it internally this episode. I fucked up and said it the beginning of the episode when I thought that Aoduo was Jinshi on the wall. And then they show Aoduo in a more masculine outfit that somebody, if Jinshi wasn't, you know, a eunuch, might be wearing. I like that. I feel like my mind just, that's where it wanted me to go.
Right.
Narratively.
So this happening, this timing is when Mao Mao's father got expelled from being the doctor of the rear palace. We get the idea already in here of like a foster family. This idea that could bring about either a giving onto others someone else's child, taking family members and making them your own. Mao Mao, we don't know exactly where she came from and how her father came about getting her.
I'm assuming her, like, well, we were told her dad is a eunuch, right?
Yeah.
So, like...
So I'm thinking, like...
But that's where I started off, right? Like my initial thought was, oh, was Mao Mao a kid, and was even though we're told that it was a son who died, did it end up being a daughter, and that's how it connected to? No, but then I feel like that's not right, and it wouldn't fit in, and it would make a lot more sense if that's not the case. That the opposite would be the case in terms of the pacing this episode, which would be Jinshi's involvement with the birth. I
wasn't trying to say that Mao Mao was one of them. I was merely bringing up parallel themes or ideas being in this story.
Gotcha.
And the idea of like someone raising a child as their own that is not necessarily their own, or raising them as someone else.
Gotcha.
Which obviously the Jinshi looks like Empress Dowager, looks very much like Ao Duo, like so much so.
Not just hair, like
they're both described as androgynous, as people that not only men would have affection for, but women would have affection for and be attracted to. Both of them are described in that way.
Yeah.
What would be the point of, okay, if we were going with a speculation or theory...
Like, come on, right?
Right. So either the lie is that they are foster siblings, and they were actually siblings, or the lie is that their baby died, and that their baby was in fact Jinshi. There is something here that I'm like trying to suss out and figure out, because I'm a little bit
Jinshi being the quote-unquote younger brother doesn't necessarily debunk Jinshi being Ao Duo's baby.
Right. He actually could possibly not even be the Emperor's little brother.
Yeah.
Or what if it wasn't Ao Duo and the Prince Emperor's baby that died, but the little brother, the actual emperor at the time's son, and they just switched them.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So that the emperor could have a son. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I think, with the emperor knowing or not?
I don't know, because think about it at the timing. We can
so
use
what
Lady
I'm thinking
Gyoku
of is Gyoku's baby.
And Lady Liha at the same time.
Thematically, that's what I'm building upon.
Right,
yeah.
And what it would mean if the emperor and his son were having babies at the same time, and the prince died, would we then,
But
would we do? Who would want to do that? Why would they do that? Would the doctor have done it?
It's not like Jinshi's being put forth as like a prominent heir, though.
Right.
Which would be the assumption I'd make, that why you'd make that switch. Other than if it was like, it was switched and nobody knew about it, or it was switched and at this point it's like too far gone that if you do prod more about Jinshi being connected to Ao Duo, it could cause harm to Jinshi if he isn't who they think he is.
And why would Mao Mao's father have gotten expelled over? He had to have done something here. Either he was blamed for the Emperor's son dying.
Period. That's it.
That's what you think it is?
No,
he was blamed for the Emperor's son dying?
1,000%. Okay. 10 episodes in. Everything within this story, it's my favorite thing about it, has been thematically connected to one another. After last episode especially, from Mao Mao herself, we are in the midst of seeing how expendable Mao Mao seems to be. Not in terms of capability, but in terms of royalty to who Mao Mao is. Yeah, since the beginning of the story, Mao Mao didn't want to talk about her capabilities or try to rise in the ranks because of the fear of how easily, if she fucks up one time, she could be killed. She asked Jinshi to be killed by poison in a certain way. If Mao Mao's dad fucks up on the Emperor's son, whether it was his fault or not, the Emperor doesn't fucking know medicine. Whether it was his fault or not, it was important to him. It was his entire life. If he fucks up, he's out. Period. Like, that was my interpretation of it, because thematically we've had that represented in the past few episodes.
What that could tell us, if that is in fact the case, and that Mao Mao's father had been ousted from the rear palace because of the Emperor's son not living, then that could inform us more of the real personality of the current emperor.
What did we get Mao Mao's father not doing? in the interaction within the palace. In the
verdigris house?
Yeah,
Or
not
not
the
the
verdigris
verdigris
house,
house, but
yeah.
one of the other brothels.
Yeah.
Conjecture.
What didn't he do? You know, like he is like, it's almost like a dog or a cat getting sprayed with a water bottle. Like, he's like, I'm gonna watch where I step because I know the consequences of doing something wrong or being too involved, you know?
What if... Oh, this would be crazy. What if he speculated that someone baby swapped? What if he...
Or killed the baby, too. Poisoned it or something.
But listen to me on the baby swap thing. We're already shown Empress Dowager. She has survived her late husband. What were we told this episode? Oh, if a concubine loses a child, eventually they get out. Another concubine will replace them. What if the Empress Dowager was scared of losing her position as a concubine and as the emperor's concubine ended up stealing the prince's son? And the doctor, who would have a close relationship with the babies and the mothers, who might be able to tell a difference medically, something or another, had a conjecture about it, and he was kicked out. Because we're given that idea that, like, this is a very fragile environment in terms of stability for a concubine to survive if they don't supply a kid.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just what's not, like, adding up or making sense to me is, like, the actual practical, like, execution of swapping kids there. Because it's like, okay, what? Does Empress Dowager panic? Oh shit, fuck, I don't want to be ousted, swaps kid? Fang Ming, like, I don't want Empress, like, I don't want out, like, I don't know, like, not Fang Ming, but, like, is, like, a lady in waiting to Empress Dowager, like, I don't want Empress Dowager to get ousted, I'm gonna swap the babies.
What if it was a lady in waiting? What if it was someone else that went about this? We do get the idea that they do interact within the pavilions. We get another piece of evidence. Li Shu comes to the Garnet Pavilion, has obviously had some trauma both being there and with ladies in waiting of our duos.
Definitely.
So we do know that they have we get that idea of they have tea parties. They welcome each other inside their homes, their pavilions. There is an idea that they could have been in close enough contact that someone could have made a switch, killed the other baby. I don't know, but all I'm going with is that it makes a lot of sense that not that Mao Mao's father would have lost his job off of the baby dying, but that he would have lost his job off of accusing or conjecture.
Yeah,
especially
like
with
that.
how much he enforces that in his teachings with Mao Mao. But also from this episode, we have Jinshi sending Mao Mao in as a spy so that he can gather more evidence and even hear her input to fit research that he's already had Goshen do.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This entire discussion so far, we're talking about not what the episode is technically about, because, like, even in brushing upon it there of, like, sending as a spy or whatever, you know, that's not anything, like, that doesn't do with the potential of a code, why a code would
we
be
haven't
sent.
even gotten into
But
Fang Meng really.
or
Honey.
Yeah.
Li Shu and Honey and yes, there's so much more to this episode, and I think it does deserve our attention to try to understand the intricacies of...
I'm impatient.
Okay.
I'm impatient. Was Lady Lihua, when was the first interaction we saw with the doctor and Gyokyu? Was it in episode 1? 2?
I know that we hear Lady Gyokyu get told when she has the sick baby that the doctor is busy with Lady Luiha. And that the doctor won't be visiting her anytime
because it is a son, or because it is with that lady in waiting?
I believe because it was the son. They're both in the top 4 of concubines, and I think then it comes down to gender after that. it seems like there's a heavy emphasis on male son being said, especially in this episode.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna go with.
Because both were sick.
The prince. We get emphasis on it, like being the prince that the
right.
physician is attending to.
And then this episode, when we're going over, the baby's already gone, but he had a son with 17 years ago, when the current emperor was still a prince.
Yes.
He had a son with Alduo. The baby's already gone, but he was born around the same time as the prior emperor. Okay, so they're both sons.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have more, in the same way that Lady Liwa and Lady Gyokyu's interaction happened? Obviously, it seems like Gyokyu's child was not put first because the other one was a male.
Mm-hmm.
In this interaction, one hypothetically would be put first because they're the current sitting emperor's son,
yep,
as opposed to just the prince's.
Mm-hmm.
So what if it's with that intention that someone was like, we want Ao Duo's baby to get more, like, get the attention first, swap the babies that way, and that's why. That would be the why of it.
Like, what if the baby was starting to get sick and it wasn't being seen by the doctors, and so we swap it so the doctor will see it or something?
Yeah.
And we do get Fang Ming being the only other person in the flashback room with the Emperor and Ao Duo, which I think is really cool, because we get told that, like, obviously the current Emperor and Ao Duo have known each other for a long time, but also that Fang Ming has been there for a long time.
This is the prior emperor, though, right?
No, this is the current Emperor. That's Ao Duo and the current Emperor.
When the current emperor is still a prince.
This is him as a prince.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. I don't know.
We don't know what.
Like, with the, like, obviously, like, never mind. But it's interesting that we don't see the emperor with the prince and just Ao Duo and the current emperor when we're bringing up both. That seems weird.
That we don't get shown Empress Dowager,
Yeah,
that past prior emperor, and their baby.
Yeah, and we're only focusing on Ao Duo and the emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's pretty fucking weird.
Yeah, because we also get baby hair color.
So would that be because okay, is that one, because who the fuck cares? Why would they show it to us? Is that two, is there something within the previous sitting emperor and dowager's baby, like, being in the situation that happened? Or is it to focus narratively on Ao Duo and the emperor, just current emperor, to suggest that it could be Jinshi?
I think that it could be reasons of these are the only characters that we really know or that are integral to the current narrative, and that's why we're being shown them, just like a simple fact like that, or more so because, yeah, there's a deeper thing here, like that there was what we are currently doing conjecture about baby swapping and Jinshi being that baby.
This is exciting.
Because it's like a mystery?
Yeah. Like, and fuck me, because the actual mystery is literally, like, about the episode and, like, what, Fang
the
Ming's
colored tablets and yeah.
Do you think that could tie into it at all? I feel like it'd be too soon if it's something that big.
Okay, so we should start getting into Mao Mao's conjecture of why Lady Li Shu would be the one targeted by Ao Duo.
Correct.
Because I think that would be pertinent if we're going to try to find narrative lacing parallels. So Mao Mao's talking about Lady Li Shu. At first she's like, why would this be the concubine the Ao Duo or Ao Duo's people would go after? She's 14. The emperor doesn't even visit her like that romantically yet because of her age. So you would think she wouldn't be a threat and that Luihua or Gyokyu would be more of a threat. But then she's like, but maybe she is more so of a threat because of the longevity of growing into and then having years with the Emperor, where Aoduo has already had those years and is now older. Even her ladies in waiting are past their prime of marriage age. So then you would go after the youngest. And
that feels like it, like where prior to this episode I was like, oh, there's potential that Aoduo is involved. And now it feels like that's not the case at all.
I really don't believe, honestly, okay, I was expecting to be more suspicious of Fang Ming in terms of like being able to see her as this mastermind person that was doing something. But no sights of her in this episode made me feel weird about her.
I thought you had a good point, like the idea that like of love and her potentially wanting to do something proactively without like talking to Aoduo about protecting her place.
She has stayed with Aoduo she could have gotten married. As Mama says, this woman would have been prime marriage material. She was probably extremely beautiful in her youth. She's perfectly capable. She's an amazing leader. She's kind. She could have been married. She chose to stay with Aoduo. We get this idea that Aoduo, like Jinshi, is this beautiful androgynous being that everyone is so freaking in love with. If Aoduo no longer had her spot as a top concubine, then her ladies in waiting would lose their positions as well working for her. The reason that they are here with her and chosen as her ladies in waiting is because she has this high position of a concubine. It would be like someone realizing, we get told the concubines' lives are very unstable, in the same way that servants and commoners, their lives are unstable, but a little bit different. One could lose their head over a silly mistake, but the other one could lose their position and their affection based on anything, their age, the emperor of starting to like someone else more, and they could completely lose their way of life, the place they live in, maybe how their family views them, the society views them. They completely lose the ground they're standing on in terms of the life they've created. And it could be that Fang Ming didn't want that either for herself or for Aoduo or for both of them.
True. I'm with you on that.
What's the honey? And the Li Shu as a baby. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out. Li Shu was 9? When she became 6 or 9, when she became the prior emperor's concubine. She would have been from a very, I would say, high-standing family to especially have become a concubine at that young of an age. And to be like a top concubine as well, I feel like she would have had to be from somewhat of an important or prestigious family. Why is she scared of Fang Ming? What is it with Honey? What is it with her and a baby?
Honey's being brought up in terms of Lady Li Shu's, like, she's not even remembering specifically the details, but like of why Honey is, interacting with her, why she feels the way she does about it, other than the fact that it was when she was a kid, life-threatening, whatever. It's odd that would connect to something with, like, the response she gives to Mao Mao bringing up Fang Ming's name, if she actually doesn't remember the interaction with Honey. I think that it's something more current, as we saw the taster and Li Shu at the site.
Yeah. It could be as simple as, when I have a tea party with Aoduo, of course Honey would be served because Fang Ming's family.
Yeah.
So it could be as innocent and simple as, of course, they would offer to their guests whatever they have, in stock that, like, comes from Fang Ming's family, and they'd present that to their guests. And maybe it could be as simple as Li Shu being like, oh, that's the Honey girl. That's the girl whose family does things with honey. Like, gotta avoid her. But why would you be at Garnet Pavilion?
Do you think that, like, she threatened Li Shu? Like, or did something more direct?
God, it's so... there's so many things here, so many characters. There's political dynamics. There's
what, in terms of like
just understanding, like, or even speculating on what could have happened. And I think that I'm like Mao Mao, where I'm like, do we have some court documents here that we as a viewer can start reading through?
Here's my issue. It's that, like, would Feng Meng have the authority to be able to summon Li Shu to their residence? I wouldn't think so. I would think it'd have to come through Ao Duo.
Mm-hmm.
It could be if it was like we get the idea of how impressionable, because of her age, that Li Shu is with her own, ladies in waiting. But if somebody like Feng Meng illustrated a way for Li Shu to get there and did say something directly to her, would Li Shu listen to that and take that threat from somebody like Feng Ming, or have the authority enough to be able to bring it to, to be like, fuck no, who are you talking to,
So, yeah, I'm okay. Something got, didn't get sparked, but I did start thinking of something based on what you said. Li Shu, like you said, is very impressionable. She trusts her ladies in waiting and can't see that they are just trying to almost alienate her further from the outside world. They paint everyone else as the villain and the enemy. I think that something else to be brought up is that Li Shu and Ao Duo, and then Li Shu's ladies in waiting, and then Ao Duo's ladies in waiting, they have more of a history there, but specifically Li Shu and Ao Duo have more of an almost family dynamic because they were mother and daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that. I had a place that I was going with that, and I was maybe going that would maybe, okay, I get it. I was thinking that maybe because of that history, that Li Shu might have at one point had more trust in Ao Duo or her ladies in waiting because of that fact, that they maybe were more familial or more connected when she was a kid, maybe back when, of course, the Emperor would not have visited her, especially because she was even younger, that she had a good relationship with them, and maybe things have changed as she's gotten older and is maybe coming into an age where the Emperor would start visiting her.
Yeah.
And we could be given this idea that Li Shu is gullible and that she would maybe put trust in Ao Duo. Maybe that's why she goes to Ao Duo's pavilion. Maybe that's why we see her there. Maybe she has some sort of trust in them and doesn't realize something that might be happening to her, or doesn't want to acknowledge that someone might be doing something to her.
That's true. I am happy to see that it seems like Li Shu's tester is not just in the back, behind her, bullying her anymore.
Is not joining in on it. The face that the taste tester, the poison tester, made when the honey came out, I thought was especially interesting.
Definitely.
That she was almost looking at Li Shu with concern in that moment, because she has now been told she wasn't giving that look oh no, Mao Mao is going to be mad at me and think I did this. No, she was giving a look Mao Mao told me that allergies could kill people.
Yeah.
And so now I'm suddenly taking that seriously. Is there any way that with Jinshi already being suspicious of Feng Ming and knowing about the honey with Feng Ming, that this honey thing was specifically served here for Jinshi setting up for Mao Mao to realize things?
There's definitely a possibility because of how much Jinshi expects out of Mao Mao, but that'd be a very big information that Jinshi would have to not share with either us through Goshen or us through Mao Mao.
Right. We do have the idea also in this episode of court documents of prior events in history, so it would not be crazy that Jinshi would know of Li Shu's childhood event with honey.
Yeah.
It's another idea to bring up.
I wonder if Goshen is going to bring up Mao Mao's history potentially with Jinshi. Because Goshen whether it was to us narratively or to himself, was putting pieces together when he was like, she's a smart girl. She's a smart girl, especially given that she's only 17. The book that was asked for from Mao Mao, he got for her, would know that it's connected to the doctor from 17 years ago. Her knowledge and calm composure, her ability to logically think through and deal with various issues. Like, she does have some peculiarities, but it's so impressive. Like, if Goshen had interactions with Mao Mao's dad or memory of it, I wonder if he would convey that to Jinshi.
Like, if he had met Mao Mao's dad, if he could start to see some similarities there.
Like, similarities, and then maybe go to Lihaku and was like, where did you guys go? Oh, to this district? Okay. And where, like, just did some investigating of, like, what's going on there, somehow figures out that Mao Mao's dad's there, puts it all together.
In terms of writing, very smart choice, even more so, to not have Jinshi be the one that sponsored Mao Mao's trip home.
Right?
That...
Yeah.
I don't know about, obviously, we don't know if Mao Mao goes by a family name that would have been the same name that they would have known Mao Mao's father by. We don't know. I don't actually know how old Goshen is and how long he's been, taking care of Jinshi and a eunuch. No clue about that. But that idea is very curious, that we are given this idea, and it has to be something that eventually either other characters will start to realize, or Mao Mao will tell other characters about it now that she is reading this book and seeing her father's name in it.
If Jinshi is Aotuo's kid and Empress Dowager knows it, it could be like a mutual benefit, a mutual benefit to set Jinshi up in a position of something like a eunuch in disguise to keep Jinshi from ever marrying and having kids, to further a bloodline that is not true to the emperor, or the original emperor, as opposed to the brother. But I don't know, that wouldn't make sense, because obviously the emperor now is the emperor.
God, that just made me think about how Jinshi is used in the same way that Mao Mao was scared to be used by, and that's why she did the freckles, like, used for his looks and for, like, in a sexual way, to gain affections of other people and put into that position. And especially if he is in fact 17, like, more so of, like, me just feeling bad for Jinshi. And how he ran away after that prank, and after how Gyokyu was so mad at him.
Yeah.
He went from looking like, oh, I'm an older guy and I'm, doing this thing with this honey, poor Mao Mao, to being like, oh no, ha ha ha, I gotta run away, to, like, back to seeming like a younger person.
Yeah.
Gyokyu being mad, though, I loved that part. Like, how dare he harass my Mao Mao like that?
I liked how Lady Lishu, like, couldn't tell who Mao Mao was until Mao Mao, like,
covered
lifted
the freckles.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's fucking awesome.
I expected their dynamic actually to be a little different, Mao Mao and Jinshi's, after their talk last episode. But it seemed like after their heart-to-heart, they went back to how they were at the beginning of episode 9 last episode.
That seems pretty true to, like, humanity, Like,
we had this deep talk, but
time's still passing.
Yeah, and I feel like nothing was left unsaid there. Yeah. They both knew that conversation, like, what was said, and it was important to be said, and there was no, like, Jinshi was shut down from, like, debating it or disagreeing with it, like, in realizing that Mao Mao was right from her perspective.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that they would have just, like, that conversation doesn't need to be rehatched necessarily.
All right, that's all I have, you.
Yeah.
I really liked this episode. I was feeling myself watching this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, Goshen's my man.
Is there anything else? I love Goshen. What was the code about? Still don't know.
This intro is going in my Valorant warm-up playlist.
So when you said like, oh, I had to listen to it from a different perspective, does that mean that when you were listening to the intro of episode 10, you were listening to it pretending that you were pressing WASD and you were shift walking and going pew pew?
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.